not sure if Mr. Roy is hearing me here.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Mr. Roy, can you try moving your mouse so you can change the volume?
I can't hear you.
Mr. Roy, can you click on the volume to see if you can raise the volume? Can you hear me, Mr. Roy? Hello? Let me try that. Maybe if you can go to the settings and change that.
My video setting is fine. I got the volume full. Can you hear me?
Oh no, what happened? The screen just went blank. Mr. Roy, are you still there?
Many practices are looking to grow, and telehealth is the vehicle to do that. It truly is. And whether that means growing to new zip codes or just growing services that they're able to offer, technology is coming out every single day to make that easier and more effective. And obviously, when we're looking at patient safety and caring for our patients, we want to make sure that we have all the tools in our tool belt to properly care for that patient.
When you're looking at a telehealth system, you want to make sure that it integrates with your electronic medical record so you can document during the visit, and you can do all of the things, share information with the patient that you do in the office virtually. You need to work with your IT team to make sure that they have considered your telehealth system in privacy and security audits. And it's important to remember that while your systems may meet all of the requirements, the patient's system may not. And so you will be interfacing with a patient who may or may not have malware on their personal devices. They may or may not be using a secure wireless system. So on the provider side of the equation, your IT team needs to make extra sure that the firewalls and malware protection between you and the patient are as strong as they can possibly be.
The first thing I always say is you want to make sure you have a HIPAA certified solution in place. At that point, once you have the technology, you want to make sure that you purchase a nice webcam, a nice HD webcam. The next step I would say is then get a microphone that can sound, good to your patients. It sounds professional. It can cut down on any additional noise. At that point, you want to then make sure that your background's professional, and you want to make sure it's comfortable to your patient. So if you see the patient in an office setting, typically everything's very professional, white walls, looks great. You want to make sure there's something similar or at least professional in your background if you're doing televisits.
People come to us with different barriers and different challenges. And the solution is to anticipate those barriers and have a plan for overcoming them. And so preparing the patient for the visit beforehand is a vital part of success with virtual care. Whether that's a video visit, use of a remote monitoring technology like a blood pressure cuff or a heart rate monitor, we really have to make sure that we focus on the user experience and make sure that we can make that as joyful, as simple, and as reliable as possible.
And what we've seen be really successful is creating a short video, having, whether it's yourself as a medical doctor or someone within your practice, create a visit that your patients can watch on YouTube, which you can send links out through either email or the patient portal, just to give them a little understanding of what it's going to be like, what it's going to feel like going through a televisit. Be sure to positively identify the patient before beginning the visit. That's a major concern. And honestly, where we see quite a few issues is a provider getting ahead of themselves a little bit and clicking on the wrong patient. Maybe they had prepped on the side with a health history or something, and you start the visit and it's not even the right patient. So just positively identifying your patient when you first begin.
A waiting room option in a telehealth system can be very valuable. You and your team can be in your telehealth setting, getting everything ready, making sure the record is up, that you have everything, maybe even conversing about other patients. your patient, the telehealth patient, will not be able to hear this because they're in a waiting room. When you are ready, you're sure your environment is appropriate, then you can invite the patient into the video visit, and there's no concerns on either side of the fact that this is now a healthcare visit and needs to progress as so.
Another thing we say is document your EHR while you're doing the visit. And that's one of the major keys to success when implementing a telehealth program. And whether the EHR that you have has telehealth integrated and you can be on the same screen while you're documenting, or if you need to buy a secondary monitor to be able to have your EHR open on one screen and your telehealth application open on another.
If you're flustered, you have to be extra careful, because that can create cognitive overload and actually diminish your skill at practicing the art of medicine. So the technology should be transparent and it should not be in the way. You shouldn't even know that it's there. If you know that it's there and it's getting in the way, think again. Maybe you need another visit. Maybe you need a longer visit. Maybe you need to switch to the phone. But don't just tough your way through it and then kind of move on to the next case. You really have to solve each problem in the context of the visit.
The provider may need to ask the patient to convert the visit to an in-person visit. And so when would that happen? Technology might require an in-person visit, or the patient's condition might require physical assessment that can't be done remotely, or the patient may be too sick for a virtual visit. And then the decision needs to be made, how emergently does the patient need to be seen? If there's significant concern, then the patient needs to be sent to a hospital. The provider can ask the patient to, if there's anyone there to help them, contact 911, or the provider can call 911. If the patient is not sick enough to necessarily need to be sent to a hospital, then discussion can be had about how and when the in-person visit will occur.
I think some of the most frustrating things for providers is broadband issues, internet issues, microphone issues, and then just dealing with disconnected or disparate systems. I think ensuring that your internet is solid wherever you're providing the care. And then again, it's much harder to ensure that the patient's internet will be solid, but having a good backup plan, having the ability to reach out to IT if there is an issue. I've seen providers very successfully keep note cards on their desk to be able to communicate with the patient if they don't have audio and only video. And then again, being able to let the patient know if you can't see them on video, a few tips or tricks to try. And a lot of that is just process and procedure, understanding what the patient sees from their side, not only what you see from your side.
Patients don't always tell us when they're not following what's going on. And so you need to make sure that the patient has understood the exchange, that they leave the visit with a clear understanding of what comes next, that they can articulate back to you what their next steps are, what understanding they now have that may be different than when they started. That's no different than in person. It's just that over video, we don't have the same cues and the same context to be certain that we've been successful.
A lot of our providers are used to being able to just yell out if they need something done for their patient. In a televisit, it's not quite that simple. There's definitely ability to do that. You can message back and forth with staff. You can have a virtual waiting room set up where you can put the patient back in the waiting room and have different members of your practice pull them for what's needed. But it's definitely different than just being able to yell out that you need, a lab form, or you need, a referral coordinator, or just honestly to put the patient in a room to bring them into a different type of visit. So we always recommend just ensuring that you understand the full workflow, whether you're the front office person or the provider or even the referral coordinator at the end of the visit.
We impose a lot of activities in person that don't need to be in person, and yet we do them as part of that wrapper around the visit. And I would argue, we need good systems to ensure those things get done, because those are vital for good patient care. But we have technology that we should be able to use to do a better job of making sure those tasks don't fall through the cracks. Because if you leave the office without those things being finished, we don't have good systems to make sure they get done either. So, let's not rely so much on that checkout desk, and let's build a set of functions and reporting and accountability to make sure that if I ask for a test to be done, it actually gets done or I get notified.
Many telehealth solutions out there will promise a PDF coming over following the visit. You do your documentation in their system, and it will then send a PDF into the documents tab in your EHR. And you have to realize that that really doesn't do anything for you, because again, the EHR is a living system. You need to make sure if that's the case, then somebody needs to go in and make all the changes necessary within your EHR for things like medications, allergies, problem list, history. I mean, you have to make sure that your system is fully updated the next time someone within your practice sees that patient, because you may realize you saw them through a televisit and there's a document, a visit note stored somewhere in documents, but somebody that just glances at the chart for a televisit or a medication refill may not realize that. A few of the things I would say is just make sure that all your devices are encrypted, mobile devices, if you're going to use them, laptops, smartphones, anything that you're really capturing PHI on should be encrypted. We also recommend using two-factor authentication on your EHR database and your telehealth platform if you use them separately. We want to make sure that your IT team is updating all your operating systems when you're prompted. There's a lot of security patches that go into that, and you want to make sure your computers are up to date. Also, just ensuring that your IT team and your operations manager or office manager had conducted some sort of security risk analysis. A lot of practices do it now. Way back in meaningful use, it kind of prepped us for this need once we started integrating EHRs, and it's no different with telehealth. We need to make sure we understand where our risks are as a medical practice.